Clark here.
Hold on.
Great.
All right. I'll open the meeting for zoning bylaw review committee, April 15th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Roll call vote. Tenio, aye. Fran Nero.
Aye.
Ann Mazar.
Aye.
Matt Clark.
Aye.
Brendan Chanel.
Aye. Present.
And Leanna Moore. Also present is Dylan Lindholm from our planning department and Jane Wyrick and Gabe Trevor from CMRPC. Gabe, take it away.
Thank you. So thanks everyone for coming out tonight. So I think tonight we'd like to move on from site plan review if possible. We're going to talk about it. So there's two things. I mean, the first main thing we need to talk about tonight is I want to go over Article 3. I have Liana's comments on the article. And I think, Dylan, it would be helpful for you to kind of lead that because Dylan did most of the edits for that. And then we have some small edits that I sent out this morning we're looking at Article 4 to Article 3 that I think will accommodate the new site plan review, but I think we did them in a very minimal way so that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel on that. The other thing is that, so we applied for an extension to the grant so we could do this through the end of the year, but for whatever reason, the state did not grant us an extension. So for Jane and I, we have until June 30th to work on this project. But I talked to Dylan and Jane, and we kind of have a rough schedule out for the major things we want to get done. But obviously the committee is free to meet and probably should meet at least, I think, like on a monthly basis or something like that.
Yeah, I'll still be here.
Yeah, so Dylan will still be around.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan's been doing a lot of great work on this project already. So
I've brought a lot of bylaws to town meeting in Millville, so hopefully you guys feel comfortable in my hands after we lose Jane and Gabe.
Yeah, and Jane and I will be available for Dylan, in a pinch if we need any input on things. But we can't really work on the project in a formal capacity after June 30th.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is just I want to go over the schedule for the next few months, and kind of, I think we have a set of priorities we'd like to see done through this process, and we can talk through that. So let's pull up Liana's comment document. So yeah, Liana sent over a bunch of comments on the document, and here we go. So yeah, this is Article 4 with the red line. So before we go forward, so Dylan and I have talked about this a bit. So for context, not to be patronizing or say anything redundant, but the way things work at town meeting, well, the AG's office, you kind of want it in a format that the AG's office will accept. And the format that the AG's office wants is what's called a red line version, where you take the existing document and then cross out what you're deleting and put in red text what you're putting in. For our purposes, I think it makes the most sense for town meeting, just so to give you guys flexibility and to give Dylan flexibility, to instead of doing, it would probably look different from this. This is more for your information about what we're changing. But I think we're deleting the whole section because really we're doing a wholesale revision of Article 4. And there's a lot of, hanging sections in Article 4 that don't really, we're going to do those as footnotes. This would just all be red text, and then we'd be crossing out the old section. So then in the run up to town meeting, if you guys want to make any tweaks, you don't have to, do track changes and all that. You can kind of it'll give you a lot more flexibility. So that's just, I think with some of the sections, we're going to take that approach. So yeah, Dylan, I can go through. Can everyone read this? I can zoom in more. So Dylan, if you want to talk through and then maybe as well address Liana's comments, and I can make edits as we see fit.
Yeah, sure. I changed mostly the applicability section is most important here. I just took out that entire section and I separated out into minor and major, just like we have in the sections below that give more detail about each of those. Minor site plan review is for any use of property listed in Mendon zoning bylaws table A, table of uses, allowed by right. I see Leanna's changed a few things here. So you think we shouldn't say and not otherwise requiring a major site plan review or anything like that?
So I kind of just moved it because it was a little confusing where it was, because if it's allowed by right, it wasn't really requiring major site plan review. It looked like the only time it would require major is if the planning board decided that it should require major. So I moved, I actually just rephrased it. It's still there.
I see. Yeah.
Unless the planning board
Okay.
determines. Yeah, sorry. I wasn't sure how best to present like my comments or revisions to you, Dylan, and everybody else. So sorry if it's like a little confusing.
That's why
it's
redlining makes it so difficult. But I think
yeah,
once we just say we're changing the whole thing. We're replacing it.
Yeah.
Well, it'll look easier. It'll all come together.
Agreed. Yeah.
Matthew?
Did we figure out whether major and minor was defined somewhere? Was that a question before?
We can add a definition to a definition section if that helps.
Is it defined anywhere?
We didn't have minor and major before.
We didn't, right?
No, we just had site plan review, and then we had administrative site plan review, but it wasn't really, I don't even think it was capitalized as like a definition, something to, yeah.
So what is, we just need to figure out what is a major and minor site plan
Mhm.
or administrative, if we want to change it to administrative or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think we were trying to
Consistent.
move to minor and major just so they relate to each other in some way.
And we don't keep calling it regular site plan review or whatever.
To me, administrative site plan review is something that staff, like administrators, so a staff member reviews it and then says like go ahead or not, whereas minor site plan review sounds like something that goes to the planning board.
Sure.
And I don't want it to sound like it's just me deciding, making some decision in the office.
I wasn't sure if that was a term that was consistent with our bylaws or anything in the planning board.
I think the major minor thing is only really talked about in site plan review, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Liana?
And I was going to say, I don't know necessarily that I would recommend that you define them, because they're kind of defined by what the requirements are to meet them, right? So if
you don't want to put yourself into a situation where you're claiming that such and such use has such and such impact. I think that would be how I would think about a definition, but you don't want to say, well, this has a crazy impact on the neighborhood, and then a butter can say this has an intense impact. It should be major site plan review if it's a minor site plan.
There's a really good planner's dictionary, and it's just a collection of what other towns have used for definitions. If I see anything in there that we think is helpful, I can bring it, but otherwise everything is self-contained in here.
I think if we want a definition, it should refer to the procedure rather than
right, exactly.
Like why. It should be like the what, not the why.
Review by the planning board, basically.
It's the what, right? Like it's the what is a major or minor. That's all.
Moving on.
So major site plan review is mostly the items that were there originally, for the most part, because those are the things that we would need all of those extra requirements for, like big sets of plans and traffic studies and all that. So this is what we would normally see coming to the planning board. We really did not see a lot of these minor or administrative site plan reviews. They basically came in and the board was voting to just waive the entire site plan review. Whereas this gives us the opportunity to look at the site plan review as a minor, or if it's an actual real bona fide site plan review, we're calling it major. We're talking about special permits, anything that was minor, but then the planning board says that doesn't look minor to us. Please do more. Open space, And then I sort of consolidated the ones about how many square feet of existing or additions, alterations. I kept 500, the 1,000. I think I just took out the one that was like specific about residential district because it's already coming to us anyway. It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's residential or not. It's coming to us anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think we
yeah.
agreed last time.
Yeah. Land disturbance. We made sure to include stormwater permit there. It's already part of that. And then any change residential to non-residential. And then it looks like Lana has a question about parking spaces. I know there was a question about, I know you mentioned it later down as well. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, so just here, I know, later down, you mentioned, there is a mention about parking spaces if something has X amount of something or X parking spaces. So I didn't know if we wanted to add as a criteria for major, you know, that there's a change that results in X number of parking spaces. So, again, I don't have a particular opinion on it. It just happened to be something that caught my eye.
I would make an assumption that that the land disturbance or the addition or alteration of impervious, like adding impervious service, would catch some of those. If they're just putting in a gravel drive, yes, that would be a concern. So thinking about one property that recently put in a parking lot that sort of maybe accidentally skipped some of the permitting procedures, maybe that is helpful. I would be amenable to that if you guys think it's worth it. I don't know what number.
Yeah.
Dylan, just for the record, I don't think people maybe accidentally skip permitting procedures.
Just trying to, you know. We don't know.
I think in the prior, again, I don't have an opinion on this whatsoever in terms of number or anything like that. I thought in the prior version of this, we did have something about a certain number of parking spaces, and I don't know how
it
that
was
number
not in section B or 2 or whatever. But Gabe, do you mind scrolling down a little bit, because I know there is a mention of it. Liana highlighted it later.
Maybe I'll just control F parking.
Yeah, just to refresh my memory of where it was.
We talk about location and width.
That's about just what, when you're doing a project, what does it look like?
Thing.
It says 15.
For large developments, those exceeding 10,000 square feet of gross floor area or requiring more than 15 parking spaces, or for smaller developments located in high density areas. So I think 15 parking spaces, that, I mean, for some parts of some towns, 15 parking spaces would be huge.
That is not a lot here.
I could say 10 or 8, maybe.
There is a chance that there is an existing business that is going to add more than 15 parking spaces that should come, but I would hope that they were coming for another reason already.
Yeah.
But I am thinking of one particular case where that might not have, this would have caught it better.
Should it be percentage of like?
I'm just wondering if we should include, instead of just gross floor area, if you go back to B and I had like 500 feet of gross floor area.
Yeah.
Somehow instead of saying floor area, we say, you know, change of the land in some way.
Yeah.
Because impervious surface should get some of that, but sometimes people don't do impervious surfaces for parking. So
any addition or alteration to an existing, you could say any alteration to an existing building, like commercial building or structure, which results in an increase of 500 square feet, like a disturbance of 500 square feet or more of land.
We have land disturbance more than 1 acre. We could bring that down. But stormwater permit is 1 acre.
Yeah.
I think again, this is just my own personal opinion. I think you're probably better off keeping it as is and just adding a bare, whatever minimum number of parking spaces, because like Dylan said, I think it's going to be the rare occasion that you're going to have an increase of parking spaces without something else that's driving them there. So you just really want to catch like those like one-off cases. So I don't think, and remember that the planning board can waive, all these technical requirements. So if it's like 2 parking space, whatever your number is, if it's really a nothing, the planning board could literally just say, we're waiving all of these requirements and you're approved. So
do we want to say something like 15 parking spaces brings you here as well? Just as number 8.
Yeah. So like any
does anyone else have an opinion on number or?
Jane?
I would just check to make sure whatever number we use is in agreement with the MS4 permit.
Also our parking bylaw.
Yes.
Okay.
You could probably put a placeholder for now, Dylan.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I'm writing a note to myself.
I'll put up a note for myself.
Okay, that's something that can change. I'll make it consistent with everything else and I'll put it in here. That's fine. And then one more generic catch-all, like may be required elsewhere in this bylaw or general bylaws. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and when I did a scan, I felt like I did see 1 or 2 things that mentioned site plan that we might not have specifically caught.
That's why I specifically put open space, but I think this would be
that was definitely one of them, right? And then I was also thinking in future, if we revise bylaws and add sections,
right? You want to make sure it's there.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that.
So any change? Yeah. So
does the committee feel comfortable with that? I can't make the decisions for you guys. I'm just saying I like it, but.
I'm good with it, obviously.
Okay.
Brendan?
I meant to react. I'm good with it as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I've got a toddler with a temper tantrum in the background, so I'm trying to stay muted.
No worries.
All right. So Liana, you have a few other comments. Oh, quite a few. So terminology does not match major, minor, below. I think we've addressed that.
Yeah, that was a redlining issue where I wasn't sure which one was redlined and which one wasn't.
Okay. Liana, I'm deleting your comments. No offense. Just
no worries.
As we go through them. So should this just say by right? So okay, we're done with that.
Yeah. So it said for allowed or by right uses there.
Okay.
It said for permitted or by right uses. I refuse to use the word permitted, if you guys agree with me, because it could be permitted or permitted, and we don't want to get confused between anything that needs a permit versus anything that's allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think so. I can't see your language there, but I think you just say by right because that's how Y is defined in the use table.
Yeah.
So allowed by right. Yep. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Cool. And then already stated under A. What is this?
This was already moved. I think it's my redlining. I really am not good at redlining. If I left something in, I thought it was crossed out and it wasn't. I think. Yeah, if I missed a cross out, then absolutely.
So then find a place to add a note. Okay,
yeah,
I
talked about this, Gabe. Yeah.
I already added that.
So I think that's already stated in 301C9. That's why I didn't think you needed to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Is 301C9 part of the use table?
I'm pretty sure. Unfortunately, I don't have 2 screens, so
one sec. I'm pulling up. I have the version. I just
thank you.
301C9 uses
legally. I have this memory that I didn't like how clear it was. So.
Legally existing in accordance with the Mendon zoning bylaws prior to the enactment of this section may be allowed in accordance with 301D. And 302.
I see like site plan review may be required under section 4.82 zoning bylaw, whether or not specifically stated in the table uses. But I thought that was a little wishy-washy, and I'd love for it to just say,
please go look.
Yes, go look at this.
Yeah.
You know, if it's
Yeah,
by right,
all
go look at the
all I put
bylaws.
in was a footnote on
Mhm.
on the you will we'll talk about this later, but
Okay.
all I did was put a footnote on the depth, like the little like table that tells you all the different codes for the use table that says why may require site plan review. So it's basically just restating that, but I think a lot of if we were going to do, we've talked about this, but the way this is written, the whole use table could say site plan review for almost everything.
Everything.
And so in other towns, they would put that in the use table. So I think having it next to the use table is consistent
Mhm.
without completely changing, because it would just be annoying to have it all be SPR or something.
And there are
Uh,
some uses that are listed as SPR, so not by right,
Yeah.
but by SPR. So that does make it
Which
even
is
more
confusing. Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super confusing.
I don't understand why that's the case. So that bothers me.
So yeah, some accessory residential require planning board. Shouldn't this just be by right accessory?
Yeah, so I
so
was, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
PB is it means special permit, so that would be a major site plan review because it any use, structure, etc. that requires a special permit would come there.
Well, so, and that's what I was trying to figure out, because the way it was written before, it said any use that's accessory to residential use. It doesn't say by right, and there are some accessory uses that are not allowed by right but require a special permit. So that's why I think the way I revised it, I think I revised it to say except that by right primary and accessory uses versus
Okay.
just any accessory uses. I wasn't sure if that was your intent or not, so that's why I flagged it.
Cool. Yeah, Dylan, do we want to change this or just leave it?
That's fine. Yep, that's good.
Okay. So just delete this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so any use, structure, or activity. Yeah, I would
think
say,
at that point, project would be something that I want to put in definitions.
should we say development? I would just say use or structure, because I
Yeah.
think that's the only,
because the use
that's
is an
really,
activity.
yeah, and a use is, that's what the use table tells you what needs a special permit.
Yeah, so the only reason I flagged that is because you guys had activities up
Yeah.
top and
I think that
that's
was-
like land disturbance, right? Like, so is
I
land
was
disturbance
keeping
a
some of the
use?
old language. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
New
like,
at all.
I don't know, like, is land disturbance a use or an activity, right? Like, so I don't know if you do want like a more of a catch-all, like for everything, or if
Yeah.
it's not, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we just would say that's a use.
Okay.
Like a use can be a temporary thing.
Mhm.
I did. Okay, so this one I did take out variance, just because we have never, in the last 2 years I've been here, we have never seen a site plan review because they got a variance. They often get a variance and then they come for a special permit, so they get a site plan review with their special permit. But I've never just
Yeah.
seen a variance come in. So a variance could just be, we need 2 less feet for frontage. We need 200 feet of frontage. We have 198 feet. That isn't coming to planning board for a site plan review. It could if you guys wanted to, but I can just tell you that it isn't right now.
Yeah, whatever. I just noted it because I think that was in the prior one. So,
It
and then
was.
you also, I don't know if you want to be more generic too, because I don't know how you capture those ones that say SPR or the, and maybe this, sometimes you got to look at the use table as well. Like, are the ones that say SPR, are those intended to go to major, or so like maybe that's why I don't know if you want to be more generic and say, basically anything that's not required, not allowed by right? Anything that's not allowed by right has to come to major is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, so it's 2 separate items, I think. Variance is one thing. The SPR situation, maybe we change on the use table to say MSPR or something. I don't love it, but
No, I know. Yeah.
we can find some way to make it clear that if it says SPR in the use table, that probably means major, and anything that says Y is minor.
Okay. Make it clear on the use table that SPR. Liana?
Yeah, sorry, no, and this was a separate thought, so finish your thought.
Oh
because
yeah,
this
so
is-
I'm just have a note to myself to make it clear on the use table that SPR probably means major site plan review.
And we can just check over that, make sure that's completely
We can
clear.
do like the footnote thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a real quick question, because I realized that I had two comments about the residential uses, one under the minor site plan review and one under the major, which is the one that you might have been asking me earlier about. So for major site plan review, where it says, except to the extent that they're used for or accessory to a residential 1 or 2 family dwelling. So I wasn't entirely sure where we were intending, and I think it's mainly on the accessory uses. And again, this is why it's helpful to sometimes just go back and look at the use table, where we were intending to place residential accessory uses that are allowed with special permit. And if that's supposed to get a major site plan review, then this needs to be reworded. But if you also, because they're residential, want those to get a minor site plan review, even though they require a special, like, then we need to say it there. So if you're intending that even a residential use that requires a special permit has some form of review because of that, then we need to kind of figure out where it belongs and say it a little more clearly.
I just kept that language because it's what was there. So I thought that might be the intent of the town in the past, that they don't want the residential ones coming.
I think that's pretty onerous for a residential owner.
Yeah. So you might want a minor, but if it requires a special permit, you have to go through that process anyway. So
you're doing that anyway. So
Yeah.
you're already getting a
Yeah.
special permit, which is much harder anyway.
Mhm.
So I think it's still fine, in my opinion, that they don't need to get a special permit and a site plan review if they're a residential property or an accessories to residential property that needs a special permit. They're already getting a special permit. If everyone else is comfortable with that, that's my opinion.
I'm trying to see what the uses were. It might be helpful if we refreshed
Yeah,
our
I have
record.
it. We have something like
Residential
in
accessory.
certain neighborhoods, customary
Oh.
accessories such as private garages for not more than 3 vehicles, storage sheds, private tennis courts, and swimming pools, which I think we're changing anyway on our new list.
Mhm.
Because that's a weirdly specific thing. Home occupations, they're coming for special permits sometimes. Bed and breakfast. We'd be getting a lot of that information from the special permit anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter to me. I raised it just because I don't think it's as clear as, so
Mhm.
so I think whatever the decision is, we just may want to make it a little clearer.
I think it's funny that any special permit also gets a site plan review. You're already getting a special permit, but that's what the town had before, and I didn't want to take that out. I took the variance one out. I didn't want to overstep and also take all special permits out.
So how do you want me to address this here? So we're looking at this comment, right?
Yeah.
For like looking at 5 and 6. Do we want to make any changes or leave this as is?
Anyone?
I'd lean towards leaving it. I guess my question with even if it's a residential use, they'd already be getting a stormwater permit for land disturbance of more than 1 acre, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. No, not for a single family. Do not think so. They don't get they don't have to go to state for that, so I don't know if they have to go to town for that. Residential has I don't know if there's actual protections, but often when it's a single family house, it doesn't have the same requirements.
Mhm.
And if you leave
general
this language, in, even if somebody in a residence did do a land disturbance of 1 acre or more, they would not have to come for site plan review.
Right. Exemptions. It looks like they would come to get a stormwater permit.
I recall
Unless
there was
it's-
one recently that people were asking what was
unless
going
it's
on.
maintenance of existing landscaping. But if they're clear cutting to put a new house there, it sounds like they do have to come. I'm reading it very quickly, but I think that's what I'm reading here. Yeah, so they're coming to us anyway.
Okay.
All right. So
And
do
it's
we want
already
to move on?
stricter. Yeah, we can leave that. If
Yep.
you guys
Okay.
are cool with that.
Liana?
Sorry, one more question, not on the
Yeah.
residential piece, and just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So it's interesting because minor site plan review is for anything allowed by right. Major site plan review is for anything that triggers one of the ones below. So it's possible that you can have some kind of commercial building that doesn't trigger one of the ones. But okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been thinking
Yeah.
out loud. Okay, I was trying to like
That's
piece
okay.
it all together. Okay,
I know
yeah.
I have to do this too.
Yeah. All right. And then for
So-
this with, oh, sorry.
No, I'm like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Maybe where I made that change above where it says unless the planning board determines that major site plan review is required in accordance, that was really to get the fact that minor could turn to major. Uses relevant by right. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I keep thinking out loud because I'm just trying to figure out, like, it feels a little awkward the way it is, but I don't want to think out loud. I apologize. If I have another thought, I'll raise it again.
Okay.
I think we definitely can continue to tweak things before we get to town meeting as well.
Yeah.
As long as the committee feels comfortable with, yeah, the at least the bigger stuff. Obviously, some of the smaller stuff, but if we have sentences that feel clunky and things like that, we definitely have time to work on that. Yeah.
Patrick Doherty, you have your hand raised. I don't believe he's on the committee.
Yeah, so I was actually I haven't been here for quite a while, but I was just kind of an advisory. I'm no longer a resident, so I live in Webster now. And I apologize if this has already been taken up. The last couple of months I've had to take my granddaughter to swimming lessons on Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock. So, but the question I had is in just for background, I'm a civil engineer and I do permitting all over New England, and I see bylaws all the time, and which is why Bill had invited me to this originally. The one question I have, and maybe it's already been covered, for modifications for existing sites, I see a lot of towns and cities that have the minor and the major review also have that for a modification. So, for instance, if you're building out a commercial building and decide that you need to make the building 2 feet wider or something, sometimes it's administrative, sometimes it requires a full re-review.
We do have that lower down, I believe.
Okay.
Is that right, Gabe? Make sure I'm right on that.
What are we looking for?
We have modification.
I think so.
It's way down there though.
Yeah.
Are you talking about 5, any addition or alteration?
No, I'm
Patrick,
talking about after final action.
Yeah, so if you just modify, if you got a site plan approval and during construction you want to modify it a little bit, some cities require you to go back and attend 2 hearings, and
right
others let it be done administratively if it is minor.
Yep. So and this is typical with special permits as well. Yeah. So if they get their approval and then they decide they need to change it, they come back with their modifications. If we take a look at it, if we decide that it's a very small change, the planning board can just say, okay, it's minor. We'll do a minor site plan review. Sometimes it's administrative too, and we say we want to change one pipe. Okay. If it's like a big change, they're adding a whole new building or something like that, they come back to major and they get a modification of the existing. They can use a lot of their same application documents.
Right, so is it gonna be codified with some kind of a threshold, similar to what the site plan review is being done, or do you think it just doesn't happen as frequently enough that,
Usually
someone can?
we don't put thresholds often because it could be anything. We have that the planning board makes a determination based on what they see. So they decide on a case by case basis if it's going to be major or minor.
Okay,
All right.
We can always change that. It's up to the
Yeah.
committee, not me. I'm just giving my opinions here.
Yeah. So then with variance requests, we're done with this?
Is the committee good with taking variance requests out? Yes. I only see Liana. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you.
All right. So, and then what does this mean if you don't need stormwater permit, then you don't need it? Also, where is stormwater permit defined? Is that in general bylaws?
Yeah, so
So-
I just wasn't sure if there was any like disturbance of land that wouldn't require a stormwater permit. I'm not familiar with the stormwater permit bylaws, so I didn't know why we would have to specify that it has to be in conjunction with a stormwater permit versus just any disturbance of land. But so that
we
was
can
my question.
certainly just say any land disturbance, but I would like them to know that they also probably need a stormwater permit. We can change the way it's written. But I want to make sure that we direct them to, because it's in general. No one's going to remember to go to think, oh, I'm doing a land disturbance. Let me look at zoning bylaws. And it says I need a major site plan review. And then we get to that situation and they haven't applied for the stormwater permit.
Right,
right. And, our admin assistant didn't see that they only applied for one or whatever. I want to make sure that they know they need 2 permits.
I
Yeah.
agree. I think it's better to link them.
So,
So
we can change
leave-
the way it's written, but Gabe and I can just change the wording just to say like,
Okay.
it could even just say like, please also reference general bylaws,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So I'll just highlight this for us.
That's fine.
All right. All right. Thank you, Liana. So we moved the building permit section down to the end of the document. And Dylan, I think that was your idea.
I know Liana also made the comment where we moved it.
Okay.
I put it under like conditions because it is a condition.
Yeah, so and I don't like it. I think it's actually probably good if you do move it down. I just didn't see it as
You
a
want it to be
condition.
separate?
In my mind, I didn't read it as a condition, right? Like it's like not necessarily a condition. It's just that you can't get a building permit unless you do it. So I didn't read it as a traditional condition. To me, it didn't like belong with the other conditions that you did list as conditions. So in my mind, it looked like
this is something we write as a condition every time we're writing a decision.
You do.
So
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's why I put it there as a condition because this is often something it's in the condition section in often.
Yeah.
But if everyone wants it out, we can always put it out. But maybe like near the condition section so it's closer to when we're talking about that sort of.
I don't totally disagree. I can
Can we scroll down to
Yeah. So we have it down here. So right now it's a part of conditions, limitations, and safeguards. I don't totally disagree with, I like having it down at the bottom, but when I put this in, it's a very long section and this doesn't read, it reads like it reads like it was from a different section in a way that I don't really see a problem with breaking that up and putting it, because it would be right before modification of approved site plans. It's not like out of character to have this as a section down there, in my opinion. Does anyone else have a strong opinion? I mean, this isn't essential, but does anyone else have a particularly strong opinion on this? Or do we want to split the difference? Or
I say
Yeah,
if
I
at least
definitely don't
one
mind
committee
it.
member.
Yeah.
I definitely don't mind it down here. And like I said, the only reason I didn't look at it as condition because you don't want the building inspector to issue a permit unless the planning board says so. It's not, you don't really necessarily want to wait till the planning board puts that as a condition on the site plan review. You want it as a standalone, like an enforcement action. Like you cannot issue this without, unless X, Y, or Z. That was my only thinking on that.
yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. If we just move this indentation back one, just for that one part, and it's becomes I, whatever.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll figure that out.
Yeah. I get to use like the tool up top. Yeah.
I've said this before, but Microsoft Word has been around for what, like 40 years now, and you
It's
can't.
gotten worse.
It's gotten worse. Too many features. I don't need to be able to draw in this or whatever. They have Illustrator apps and all that for a reason.
Anything else?
So I think that's it from up here. I'm going to delete this. All right. So yeah, right now it reads adequacy. Yeah, do we want to keep this as development or change it to project? Development is pretty standard language. But we didn't end up changing that. We just said use or activity.
Yeah, I think this
we want
is
to
just
make it
the same language that it was.
Do we want to keep it as development or change it to use or activity or?
This is part of the major, so it's not. Yeah, so it's probably most likely more than just putting a hot dog stand up. Just giving that as like when you use development, it often sounds like some big complex, but yeah, it is the standard language that most people use, but I totally feel comfortable saying like the same language you had above, I think, is use or structure.
Yeah, use or structure.
Or you could say proposal. I was just trying to say that one section we used one thing in this, so I it was unclear.
Yeah, I think proposal is actually, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because then we're not gonna.
Yeah, it's one less word too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we might get these to be one line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, not proper reference. Yeah, I think that's something Dylan will handle at the end of this whole process because we're gonna have a lot of back and forth changes and stuff. Yeah. But thank you. It's always good to remember that because sometimes it's easy to just
skip over and forget.
Yeah.
All right.
So I made changes here. I made the minor site plan review to have just a few requirements. The site plan that they have to bring does not need to be from like an architect or an engineer, because often it's an existing structure and someone's putting in a use. They're just using the building for a particular purpose. The building's already there and they're just a tenant in a commercial building. So we don't need them to draw up an entire new plan. We have a provision that the planning board can ask for that. If they want more information, the planning board can ask for more plans, bigger plans, other documents, whatever is needed. But I think for an application for a minor, I would not expect them to hire an engineer for that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So that's what I changed here.